2 right now. Let's check in with Josh Schindler, who's the attorney for the parents of the Normandy students who went to court to try and get the state to follow the law. Josh Schindler, the court ruled in your favor Friday. Congratulations.
Thank you. It ruled very late in the day, and obviously, given what's going on in St. Louis, to some extent it got lost in the shuffle. But for 600 students who went to various districts last year and had their hearts set on continuing in those districts, it would have seemed on its face to be an absolutely huge ruling, and many people were ecstatic. Unfortunately, that pleasure now has been stifled because it appears, at least on its face, that the state board and DESE are going to dig their heels in and not let those kids transfer, will only let my plaintiffs transfer, even though the opinion is very clear that every kid should be allowed to transfer.
Wait a minute. The state is saying only the parents who are in the lawsuit are allowed to transfer?
That appears to be the current position. As a matter of fact, I reached out to the Attorney General's office this weekend and said, is this true? And Normandy starts this morning. And basically, I said, will I have a final decision today? And no promises have been given to me. This is the way DESE has been handling this situation over the last 7 years shows that they really aren't going to follow the rule of law. And they're going to do everything in their power. I don't know if they're going to try to appeal the ruling or just hold it to these 5 kids. But at some point, it hits the level of ludicrous.
Are you then going to, if the DESE says that it only applies to the kids in the lawsuit, are you going to then round up all the parents and then sue them again?
We've already started to grab every student. We're asking every student. We expect literally hundreds of phone calls today, and we're going to file for a temporary restraining order. But frankly, I'm going to go farther. At this point, we have to look hard as to whether the state board as it exists today, whether we should be calling for resignations. And frankly, the most troubling part is I heard that Chris Nicastro, who heads DESE, was asked if there was a backup plan if the court rules in the student's favor. And apparently her response, and I wasn't there, but her response is we're going to win. So if the way we run our educational system in Missouri is like a horse with blinders, or if we're going to bury our head in our sand, then perhaps it's time that we look at the Missouri educational system and say, you know what, we lack leadership and we need fundamental changes.
School's starting. So
right.
Kids might be forced to go to one school today, but then can go to another school by Wednesday?
That's correct. I mean, kids are showing up in Normandy. I have told, obviously, my plaintiffs they've won, and they're going to the schools today where they went last year. But the rest of these parents, I've gotten one phone call after another. My kid is crying every single day. And they're going to be forced to go back to Normandy because the state board and DESE buried their heads in the sand. I mean, they just pretended almost as if my lawsuit didn't exist. Everyone knew we were going to have a ruling last week. I think we have a problem in the state of Missouri. Obviously, the Michael Brown situation has taken the priority, but we talk in things of unemployment for African Americans, and we talk about other issues. Let's not forget the single most important thing that we can provide to our citizens is a good education. That is absolutely the great equalizer. And so to me, what is absolutely going on today is that we've lost sight, at least in the state of Missouri, if not in the entire country, that the one thing we have to do is educate the masses. And that's the equalizer. Well, what's going on today is we're just going to forget about educating those kids in Normandy and let them have a substandard education.
Josh, I know DESE, the Department of Education, is a state agency. How much control and how much power does Governor Nixon have over that state agency?
Well, DESE is run by the State Board of Education, which has if I remember correctly, a split between 4 Democrats and 4 Republicans. But between Jay Nixon and Tom Dempsey, they have tremendous control over this situation. The greatest concern is that Normandy will not have enough money to continue this year if the kids are allowed to transfer. Well, first of all, I believe that Normandy has not cut deep enough as far as it needs to stabilize its books. But there can be supplemental appropriations. In fact, there was a supplemental appropriation last year. So that would be number one. They control the purse strings. But number two, Chris Koster, our Attorney General, he provides legal advice to the State Board of Education. And at this point, it is, really, I think, frankly, the Attorney General is on the wrong side. The Attorney General should be representing the 600 kids who are being denied a good education. And all the Attorney General really has to do is go to the judge's opinion. And what he wrote was he recognized that leaving children in unaccredited school districts with no option to transfer from those districts is harmful to those children. So, those kids who want to stay in Normandy should be allowed to stay in Normandy. But those kids who are in Normandy who want to transfer, or the judge found it, is suffering irreparable harm. So I understand it's hard in what's going on. As we all know, it's filling every minute of press, and I appreciate you taking the time with me, that this story to some extent gets lost. But we have 600 kids today who are suffering, and it is incumbent on, at this point, I think the most important person in the mix is the Attorney General.
600 kids stuck in a failed schooling district, and the court ruled they're allowed out, and the state's not letting them. It's a great point.
That's absolutely correct. And I very much appreciate, because this is a critical issue for these kids.
Josh Schindler, attorney for the parents of Normandy. Keep us in the loop, Josh. Thanks for checking in.
Bye-bye.